Welcome back, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. My name is Gotty and here's another session from the Malta poker scene, and here we go. This is actually the second or third hand I got dealt in when I sat down. I have ace queen suited in a big blind. Hijack opens for €7. The small blind calls and I like to pump it up to €30 and both players call. So we go three-way to the flop, which comes Jack 8-3 with 2 spade. Since I'm in the middle and I totally whiffed this board, I check over to the hijack player as well, and he puts in a bet of €32. Small blind folds, and since I have absolutely nothing, I fold, and he shows the 8 of spades. So most likely he has a really good draw with it, or maybe pocket eights. Nothing special here, on to the next one. In the next hand I have king queen off on the button. Hijack opens for 6-0. He's a Scandinavian 2-5 regular, which pops in more often nowadays. Nevertheless, I have a good hand with good blockers, so I 3-bet to €20. The blinds fold and he 4-bets to €60. I have a good playable hand, so I call in position, and the flop comes 9-5-3 rainbow. He puts in a c-bet of €30. I have 2 overs and a backdoor straight draw, so I call. The turn pairs the board and brings a second diamond. He checks, I check behind, and the river is the 10 of diamonds. He puts in a €60 bet, and that definitely felt like a block / slim value bet. So I didn't think too long before fold, but now when I do this review and analyze this hand, I rather play this hand as a 5-bet bluff / fold strategy pre-flop, which means I could raise it up to €140, €150, don't have to go to big pre-flop. And if he jams on me, I can easily fold, and if he calls, I still have position. But if I call like I did in this situation, I definitely need to bet the turn and take over the betting lead, because the 9 definitely hits my range more than his range. And on the river 10 diamonds, I definitely have to bump it then to represent all the trips, all ace high flushes, and all full houses to get him off of all ace highs and smaller pocket pairs. But something to learn from, and on to the next one. So this hand is a pretty weird one, unfortunately not in my favorite, but the low jack opens for €7. I'm next to act with pocket fours, I call, it folds around to the big blind, which calls as well. So we go three-way to the flop, which comes king 4-3 rainbow. A perfect flop for me. Big blind checks, low jack puts in a c-bet of €11. I just call to get the big blind in as well, but he folds. And the turn brings in 9 of hearts. And now comes the weird part. He wants to bet, but he throws in his chips one by one. So initially he wanted to bet €16, but only the first €5 stand. So my plan anyway was to re-raise any turn, so I go with this initial bet and I raise to €45 and he instantly folded. So this was really unfortunate, but I finally won a pot at least. In this hand I open the cutoff with ace queen off for €8. The button 3-bets me to €28. He's one of the best regulars on the island, so his range is pretty wide from the button. And when the blinds fold, I go ahead and make the call. And the flop comes king 3 deuce with 2 spade. I check over to him, he puts in a c-bet of €20. I have 1 over, 2 backdoor straight draws and a backdoor flush draw, nut flush draw. And even if you have a smaller pocket, something between 6s and jacks, I still have 6 clean outs. So I go ahead and make the call. The turn brings another king. This time it goes check check, and the river brings the 5 of spade. And now I pause a little bit and then put in a bet of €80, roughly 90% pot size bet, because I can represent all the nut flushes with the ace of spades, and he instantly fold. So most probably I bluff with the best hand anyway. But against this particular player, I can make this bet. If it would be more like a recreational player, like who has no idea of ranges and sizes and whatever, I would have more leaned to check and then maybe called a small bet on the river. But like played, it worked out. This is actually the very next hand. The cutoff opened for €7. I'm on the button now with king 10 suited. I can go either way. I can just call in position, which I would do against a stronger player opener and weaker players in the blinds. But here in this case, the opener was a really weak recreational player in the blinds, sitting one of the best racks. So I tend more here to a 3-bet and to isolate the opener. So I raise to €22. The blinds fold and he makes the call. The flop comes ace 8-3 with 2 clubs. He checks over to me. I put in a range bet even though I totally missed the board, and I really hope I can take down the pot here. I put in 20 euro, but he makes the call. The turn brings a 4 of clubs, so the flush draw gets there, straight draw, 2 pairs. When he checks to me, I actually gave up and check behind. When the river brings another 4, he checks to me. I don't think I can get anything to fold here. And if he also missed, if he has something like 10-9, 9-7, a weaker king, missed flush draw, whatever, then I can still win on the showdown. So I check behind, but he shows 10-8, so he hit one of his 3 outs he had, and good for him. This is the last hand from this night, and it's another example of no value at all, so it folds around to me in the cutoff. I open for 8 euro with king jack and hearts, the button folds and the blinds call, so we go 3-way to the flop, which comes ace 6-3 with 2 hearts, giving me the nut flush draw and a backdoor straight draw. The blinds check over to me. I put in a range c-bet of 15 euro, the small blind calls and a big blind fold. The turn is a deuce of hearts, giving me the stone cold nuts. Now I'm really happy that the small blind called before, because he can hold all the ace x's. He checks over to me and I put in roughly half pot size bet of 30 euro and he instantly mucks. So this is like the rest of the night went. When I can go for value, nobody has nothing. But since this night was not that much action packed, I decided to go back next day, and here are the hands for that. Another day, another grind. Here the cutoff opened to 8. He's one of the stronger regulars, pretty loose aggressive with a wide range, but still a pretty solid and winning player. So I just call in position with pocket fours to get the blinds in, but unfortunately they fold and we go heads up to the flop. And the flop comes 8-7-7. He puts in a c-bet of 10 euro. This is what he always does, he always c-bets the flop no matter what. So I just call, and the turn brings a 9 of hearts, brings in a second heart. And now he puts in a bet of 40 euros, so pot size bet. I call, but this should be actually a fold, because when he betting full pot into me on a 9, which definitely should hit my range way more than his, then he's representing a really strong hand, a really good draw and some rare bluffs. So either when I'm not drawing that, then I'm running really low, maybe to only my pocket fours. So very bad situation. Anyway, the river brings the queen of hearts, so backdoor flush gets there. He checks over to me. I was thinking for a second to turn my hand into a bluff, but this should be have done on the turn already. So I just take my showdown value, I check behind, and he shows 7-6 suited for trips. This spot definitely could have been avoided. This hand happens quite some time later, so we have some new players on the table. On my right, on the button, there's a new player, a tourist, plays pretty weak so far. Pretty straightforward, and he opens for 6. I'm on a small blind with pocket queens. I pump it up to 30 euro. The big blind folds, and back to him. He's checking my stack really properly, even though he has only like 300 something in his stack and I cover him. Then he decides to call, so I put him on a smaller pocket, maybe on an ace high suited hand. And when the flop comes, 9-9 deuce with 2 spades. I have the queen of spade in my hand, so I like a c-bet. But since this board, I would most of the time would check. I like to go bigger here, so I put in a bet of 40 euro. He instantly calls, which confirms my suspicion that he has a smaller pocket, or is just on a draw. And when the turn brings the 8 of spades, or the flush draw gets there, I glimpse over to him and he doesn't look too happy about it. So I put in another bet of 80 euro to go full for value. And he's checking his cards now properly, sings a little bit, and then jams. I instantly call, and I put him right away on a smaller pocket with a spade in his hand. When the river brings the 10 of spade, he shows pocket fives with a 5 of spade. I win the pot, and this was definitely an overplay from his side, but I'll take it. This next hand is a pretty weird one, which ends up in my favor luckily. The hijack, the same player from the hand before, opened to 8. I'm in a cutoff with ace king off. I bump it up to 25 euro to isolate the hijack, but the button and the small blind have other ideas, and they both cold call. Hijack calls as well, so we go 4-way to the flop, which is definitely not perfect. Even worse when the flop comes jack 9-8 with 2 spades, so a super connected wet board. When it checks over to me, I have nothing to do here just to check, and the button checks as well. The turn brings the king, it checks over to me again. For me, no sense to bet here because I could be beat in so many ways, or so many draw hands would just call any bet. So I check over the button, he checks as well. So we go to the river, which pairs the board with the 8. It checks to me again, pretty weird, but I just take my showdown value and check over to the button and hope he checks behind. It's what he actually does. So I win the pot against pocket 10s, pocket deuces and a jack X. I'm happy that another €100 pot is pushed in my direction. In this hand we play against the solid rack again. He comes back from his dinner break and he opens from the cutoff to €8. I'm in a small blind with pocket aces. I bump it up to €30. The big blind folds and he makes the call. The flop comes 10-9-4 all in hearts. Similar to the queen's hand, only this time I don't have the matching suit, so I definitely would like a check here, but instead I put in a bet of €20, which is also definitely the wrong size, and he makes the call. The turn brings another 10. This time I check over to him and he bets €78, so he polarizes his hand and I think he puts me on a really good range of hands. So after some thoughts I ended up folding, because even though he has a lot of semi bluffs in his hand, I almost cannot call any big river pressure, only if the river is an ace or maybe a 10. And yeah, I played this hand pretty wrong, pretty weak, but only thing to do, save, learn and go on. The next two hands we play against another solid rack. He's on the button, he opens for €6, the small blind folds and I'm on the big blind with jack 8 suited and I defend. We go to the flop, which comes 8-6-3 rainbow with 1 club. I check over to him, he puts in a very small c-bet of €4. Since this board is hitting the big blind range really hard and also I have the top pair, mediocre kicker and backdoor flush draw, I like to raise it up to €20. After some thoughts he calls. The turn comes the jack, so most probably I have the very best hand, and would I have something like 10-9, 9-7, 9-8, 8-7, 7-6, something like this, I definitely would keep betting. So I also keep betting with my top 2 pair and I put in a bet of €40, and after some thoughts he calls, which is a good sign. The river brings a queen. Now I decide to put in a bet of roughly half pot size bet and he decides to fold. At the end I think the bet was too much value heavy, so I rather would bet something around 35-40% bet size bet to get a crying call from a 1 pair holding or maybe pocket 9s, pocket 10s, or I polarize my hand to like roughly 80-100% pot size bet, which I would do also with a missed draw or if I would have a weaker holding, but anyway I take the pot. So this next hand against the same rack is actually 1 orbit later. He's on a button and again opens for 6. This time the small blind calls and I'm in the big blind waking up with pocket queens. I like to raise it up to €30. I actually can go a little bit bigger to €35-36, but anyway the button calls and the small blind folds. So we go heads up to the flop, which comes 10-5 deuce rainbow. On this board I can either check or bet big, and this time I check over to him because this board shouldn't hit too hard at the button range. And he likes to put in a bet of €18. I could go for a check raise, but I would rather prefer to do it with like a value hand like aces or like a weaker hand like ace 10 for some protection. So in this case I just call. The turn brings the 3 and the second clubs on board, so it shouldn't change too much. I check over to him, he checks behind this time. The river brings the king. I was thinking for a second to block bet, but I don't see anything else than a king to call me, so I'd rather check over to him and give him the chance to also bluff like any ace highs, weaker 10s, weaker pocket pairs. And he puts in a bet of €42. Nothing to do here, just to call. He definitely has also some kings in his range, but also all the other mentioned hands. And this time he shows me king queen of clubs, which makes totally sense. And I actually lost the minimum because I'm lucky that he didn't went for a semi bluff on the turn when he gained some more flush draw outs. On to the next one. And this is actually the last hand of the night, also a pretty weird one to say at least. I'm in a cutoff with pocket kings, I open to 8, the button folds and the blinds call. So we go 3-way to the flop, which comes 9-9-8 rainbow. Small blind checks, big blind dog leads for €8. I don't want to raise here and get him off of any semi bluffs or weaker 8s, so I just call in position. And now surprisingly the small blind raises to €30, and even more surprisingly the big blind folds. So this, I was already tempted to fold on the flop, but my hand is way too strong here to just fold, so I just make the call in position and to evaluate the turn. The turn brings a jack of clubs, brings in the second club on the board,
and now he leads out for 75 euro into the roughly 90 euro pot. So he's representing something pretty strong, and he only has something 150-ish behind, so it's just a all in or nothing situation. He showed some really weird semi-bluffs before on the night, but if he holds something with the 9 of clubs combination like ace-9 to 10-9 or 9-7 or something, I'm almost running pretty dead. So I just let it go, and he shows me ace-deuce of clubs. So a pretty weird play on the flop gives him the win. I don't know. Let me know what you think, guys. So this concludes day 2 of the cash game poker live action from Portomaso Casino. You will see the stats somewhere here. We had a lot of hands we went through, so there was nothing really crazy big action hands, but a lot of weird ones, which you will see a lot on the poker table when you play full time. And I just wanted to showcase like 2 regular days, which you have where you down one buy-in, up one buy-in. And the most important thing is on the long run you have a steady up grind, uphill. And it's really important to continuously improve your game, study, and put in also the volume, the hours. So thank you very much for joining me on the journey. I really appreciate every like, every comment, and feel free to subscribe because there's a lot of more coming. Especially the next one will be from the Party Poker Championship, the very first big live event back after COVID. Just happened here on Malta, so stay tuned for that. Thank you very much. Have a good day and good luck at the tables.